Welcome to the Pivot Pathways podcast, where we explore personal development, motivation, and self-improvement. Today, we're diving into the world of personal finance, investing, and the pursuit of wealth. I've spent the past year reading 40 of the best-selling books on these topics, and I'm excited to share my journey and insights with you. So, grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's embark on this financial adventure together. When I first started out, I was driven by the desire to become the best investor, make a fortune in the stock market, and retire early. I thought that if I read all the right books, I could become as successful as legendary investors like Peter Lynch, Warren Buffett, or Howard Marks. But let me tell you, the reality was far from what I expected. I kicked off my journey with some of the most famous and best-selling books on personal finance. One of the first books I picked up was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book has sold around 40 million copies, and it's easy to see why. Kiyosaki uses a simple story about two different dads to illustrate the key principles of wealth accumulation. He explains the difference between assets and liabilities, and why some people end up poor despite looking rich, while others become truly wealthy. The lessons are basic but crucial, and I could relate to many of the stories from my own experiences. I wish I had read this book when I was younger and just starting out in my sales job. I would have spent less money on stuff that loses value and more on assets that appreciate over time. So, if you haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad yet, I highly recommend it. It's a great starting point for anyone looking to understand the basics of personal finance. Another popular book I read was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Published back in 1937, this book has been around for decades and has sold tens of millions of copies. Hill claims to have interviewed thousands of successful people and even met with the richest man at the time, Andrew Carnegie. He promises to reveal the secrets of success, but honestly, I found the book a bit lacking. The messages were too wishy-washy for my taste. Think positive thoughts, be persistent, and you'll get rich. While I understand the importance of a positive mindset, I think there's a time and a place for trying new things instead of just beating the same old drum. That said, mindset is important, and there are some valuable concepts in the book. It's just not one of my top recommendations. Now, let me share with you some other books that are definitely worth the read, especially if you're new to investing and want to get the basics right. One of them is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This book is currently #1 on the Amazon bestseller list, and it's easy to see why. Housel goes deep into the mindset required for successful investing. He reminds us that controlling our time is the highest dividend money pays, and that patience is one of the most underappreciated skills in investing. The book is packed with great stories, including one about a gas station attendant who amassed an $8 million fortune by investing small amounts of money over many decades. This story really drives home the power of compounding returns and time. So, if you're looking for a book that's easy to read and packed with valuable insights, The Psychology of Money is a great choice. Another book that covers the basics really well is A Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. The main takeaway from this book is to spend less than you make and invest the rest. It sounds simple, but it's a powerful strategy that can lead to significant wealth over time. Collins emphasizes the importance of saving and investing consistently, and he provides a clear roadmap for achieving financial independence. Now, I want to give a shout out to a couple of UK-specific books that I found really helpful. The first one is The Meaningful Money Handbook by Pete Matthew, a fellow YouTuber and professional financial planner. This book is a great overview of everything you need to know about saving, budgeting, investing, retirement planning, and even life insurance. Best of all, it's UK-focused, which is a breath of fresh air since most personal finance books are US-based. Another UK gem is Money, A User's Guide by Laura Whatley. This book is super small and packed with great info. It's written from the perspective of someone who's been through the same journey as most of us, not taught the basics at school, let loose in the world, and expected to just find our way. Honestly, it's a great read, and at just £4 on Amazon, it's criminally undervalued. Books are such a great way to learn and grow. I tend to do all of my reading just before bed, And even if you're a busy person, you can make progress by reading just 30 minutes to an hour each night. It's a much better use of time than doom scrolling on social media, and it helps me get to sleep too. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. How do we actually get rich? That's what I wanted to know when I started my journey. And let me tell you, things get really interesting once you dive into the more intermediate and advanced books on investing. You see, there's this concept called the Dunning-Kruger curve, which shows how we can overestimate our ability and knowledge about a topic without being true experts. When it comes to investing, you can start out knowing very little, and then once you learn a bit, you start to gain confidence. But as you dive deeper, you begin to realize how little you actually know, and that's where things get really interesting. Let me give you an example. I read The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, which is a must-read for any serious investor. Graham is considered the father of value investing, and his principles are still relevant today. But the book is a bit dry and old, so it's not the most exciting read. That said, it's packed with valuable insights and provides a solid foundation for anyone looking to become a better investor. Another legendary investor I studied was Peter Lynch. His book, One Up on Wall Street, is a great read, packed with practical steps and lessons from one of the best investors of all time. Lynch is a real champion for the retail investor, and he believes that you or I can beat the stock market if we lean into our own edge and know what we own and why we own it. One of my favorite quotes from the book is, "Long shots almost never pay off. No matter how bad things get, people still eat cornflakes." That's a great reminder the next time you're tempted to invest in the next hot stock promising to change the world. I also read books by Howard Marks and Joel Greenblatt, two other famous names in the investing world. Marks is known for his memos, which are really interesting and provide insights into the distressed debt market. Greenblatt, on the other hand, focuses on special situations and companies that split apart. Both investors have amazing track records and have beaten the market for a really long time. But here's the thing. As I read more and more books by these legendary investors, I began to realize that there's no concrete formula for success in investing. Virtually all the best investors in the world are outliers. They don't go with the crowd, they operate in areas where they have an advantage or an edge, and they find opportunities where there's less competition. This makes a lot of sense, right? If you want to beat the stock market, your portfolio has to look very different from the market. You need to find those winners that everyone hasn't yet found. But how much of this is skill and how much is luck? Can we replicate the success of these legendary investors? You know, it's like asking if reading a book by Lionel Messi on how to be good at football or Michael Jordan on basketball would help you become a pro athlete. Obviously, loads of people want to be pro athletes, singers, actors, and all the rest, but very few will get to the top, and even fewer will stay there for a very long time. So, what makes the people at the top stay so long, and what part is in our control? What can be learned? Honestly, I don't know the answer, but I will say that these people are the top of the game, and they are massive outliers. The reality is that most people fail to beat the market. In fact, there's a great book called A Random Walk Down Wall Street by Burton Malkiel that goes through the machine of the finance industry. Malkiel shows us that the industry is just there to generate fees and take commissions, and most of the time, retail investors lose money by trying to beat the market. Even the professionals can't do it consistently. You know, it all comes back to mindset. Time and time again, we end up chasing the hot stock of the day or fast money, but that doesn't really exist. Where it does, very few people come out on top. A big shout out as well to John Bogle's Little Book of Common Sense Investing. This book is such a good read and really gets you up to speed on index funds. Now, I've missed so much out here, and there are loads of other books I've been reading. I'll definitely do some more episodes on this topic if you're interested, so please let me know in the comments section. But let me leave you with this thought. Going back to that Dunning-Kruger curve, I'm probably somewhere in this deep crevice, not sure what side I'm on yet. But one thing I've realized from all of this reading is that there are no shortcuts to success when it comes to investing or building a business. Good things come to those who wait. And if there was a secret formula, we'd all be doing it, which would then end up defeating the whole thing anyway. As much as I feel more comfortable looking at financial statements and some of the numbers behind companies, even the best investors still get it wrong a lot of the time. So much is outside of our control. Investing is an art, not a science, but you can tilt the brush in your favor by stopping yourself from interfering too much and taking your emotions out of it, which is always much easier said than done. Anyway, that's all for today's episode. I hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Remember, the path to wealth and success is a journey, not a destination. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and subscribe for more engaging conversations, real-life stories, and expert advice on unlocking your full potential. Until next time, happy investing and keep pivoting towards your goals.